What's up, business heroes? My name is David Steininger, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to build a WordPress website in a weekend, or a couple weekdays. The timing's up to you. You just need to carve out a few hours to watch through this content, follow through on the action steps, and before you know it, you'll be ready to launch a brand new website that not only looks good, it does good work for your business. It showcases your value proposition and helps nurture visitors into paying customers. Now, if you have no knowledge of code or design, you're not really sure yet what you want your site to look like or even what you want it to say, don't worry, you're in the right place. No prior experience is necessary. We are starting from scratch here, and we're going to go step by step through the planning process and then on to the build out process using free plugins, and rest assured you won't have to touch a line of code. Because this tutorial is so comprehensive, we're covering a lot of ground here. You'll notice the video is quite lengthy, but don't worry, I'm adding timestamps to each of the lessons in the description below so you can skip ahead to a specific section. But I would encourage you to not skip ahead unless you've already gone through that training, because this is designed intentionally not just to give you a pretty looking website, but a purposeful, effective website. And in order to do that, we need to start with a solid plan. And that is what the first group of lessons is all about. Now, if you would prefer a more chunked up version of this training that tracks your progress and gives you access to some additional resources, you can sign up for the online course version of WordPress Website in a Weekend. Click the link below. You'll notice it's a paid course, but if you use code SUBSCRIBER when you sign up, I will give it to you completely free as a gift, just to say thank you for being here, for being a subscriber, and for supporting the channel. So that is an option that's available to you now. Otherwise, you can just keep watching this video, and without further ado, let's dig in to lesson number 1. Welcome to lesson number 1. Before we get all techie and start clicking and clacking away on the actual build out of our website, we're going to spend these first few lessons just working with pen and paper. We want to sketch out a plan and answer a few questions that are going to help us lay a strong foundation for our website strategy. And the first question we need to answer is, why are we building a website in the first place? It's important to understand your business goals and how you want your website to help you achieve them. What sort of business do you have, and who do you want visiting your website, and what do you want them to do when they get there? I've seen a lot of websites, and you probably have too, that don't seem to know who they were designed for. Or actually, I think I do know who they were designed for. It's the business owner, not necessarily the customer. These websites look less like a storefront and more like a back office, cluttered with family photos and diplomas, a framed mission statement. Maybe there's a shadow box with the first dollar bill the business ever earned. Maybe there's a big binder of policies and procedures stacked on the desk. And I'm not saying this isn't important and interesting information. Your customers might even want to learn a little bit about your family. They might even want to open up the binder and peruse the fine print. But this isn't stuff you want to lead with. You wouldn't invite a customer into an actual store and have them walk through the back office in order to get to the showroom, having to step around boxes and sift through papers in order to find the actual products you want to sell them. You want to make it easy for your visitors to find what they're looking for and then get to the cash registers. During the next couple lessons, I'll be drawing a lot from and developing on ideas from Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. There it is. I highly recommend this book as a great primer on clear customer-centric messaging. If you've read the book or you've listened to Don's podcast, you've probably heard the phrase, "If you confuse, you lose." It takes time and energy to think and figure stuff out. And time and energy are the most precious resources that we have. And people don't want to waste them trying to figure out what it is you do and what you want them to do in order to do business with them. Imagine you have a medical emergency and you're driving to the hospital and you turn down the main drive and you're looking at one of those direction signs that point to the different hospital buildings and parking lots. You're looking for the emergency room, but it lists every single department in the hospital. Neurology, oncology, rheumatology, emergency brake repair? What? Emervillagasi? What? No. Emu husbandry? What is this place? Emergency room. There it is, finally. That's what it's like on some websites with crowded navigation and no clear call to action. Fortunately, hospitals don't design their signs that way. They keep them nice, concise, and clear, and they highlight the emergency room in a big, bold red color usually. You need to treat every second that your visitors spend on your website with the utmost care. Focus on the most important activities and design your site around that. You might have multiple goals, multiple customer personas, and different ways you want different people to interact with your business. But which activities make you the most money? Or which activities lead to the highest impact for you and your customers? Design your site to push the right people to the right content. I used to work for a university, and we built out a massive website that had to have content for everybody under the sun, from alumni to faculty to current students and parents to the accrediting organizations. We had to make different disclosures and reports publicly available. But the most important button on that site was Apply Now. If new students were not applying and enrolling, then in a few years, there would not be current students, there would not be faculty, there would not be a school. We needed to cater the website to prospective students and their parents. That was our primary audience, and Apply Now was the primary call to action that we pushed. We also had calls to action for people who weren't quite ready to apply yet. They need a little bit more information before they were ready to make a decision. So we also pushed a secondary call to action to plan a visit or attend an online information session. And this gave us an opportunity to continue to interact with them and follow up and nurture them towards let's call it a sale, because that's what it was. So even though it wasn't the big apply now, buy now button they were clicking, it was still a very valuable action they were taking. Maybe there's a similar first step that your prospective customers can take that's easy, low friction, maybe even incentivized, like signing up for a newsletter in exchange for a free piece of premium content. Now, I'll show you exactly where to place these calls to action on your website in a future lesson, but for now, I just want you to identify what they are for your business. This will help us stay focused and keep the main thing the main thing. If you cram your homepage full of content trying to appeal to everyone, you risk not appealing to anyone. It's crowded, confusing, and if you confuse, you lose. If you don't already have a clear and simple outline for your website, I want you to take the next 10 to 15 minutes to do this. Write down what you do. Doesn't need to be fancy. We'll finesse your messaging in the next lesson. I repair kitchen appliances. I provide nutrition coaching. We really just need a simple description of your business. Number 2, write down the main way people can do business with you. Request a free quote. Book a discovery call. What is the primary call to action? Number 3, write down a secondary call to action. And 4, list out all of the different pages you know you want to include on your website. Start with the home page, include an About Us page, and a contact or booking page. These are the 3 pages that we will be building during this course. But then, are there any other pages you know you want to add? Like services, pricing, a blog or a podcast, other resources, schedule or a calendar of events. If you have 2 or more very distinct service or product categories that you offer, or different audiences that you serve, you might want to create separate pages for each of these. For instance, if you're an HVAC company that serves residential customers and commercial customers, you probably want to create 2 separate pages that list the different services for each of these audiences. Lay everything out on the table, but don't squeeze too hard. You don't need to invent a page that you're not sure you want or need to include. I just want you to pull out what is already in your brain, the information that you know you want to put in front of customers. If you already have a website and you're pretty happy with the structure, just take that outline and write it out here. Take no more than 10 or 15 minutes to scratch all of this out, and then circle the 4 most important pages. Now remember, it's not what's most important to you, it's what's most important to your customer. Do that now, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Now that you have a goal in mind and you've listed out all the pages and content you want to include on your site, and you've identified which content and which calls to action are the most important for your customers, now let's help your customers understand just how important this content is. Let's work on crafting a clear and compelling message that's going to pull your customers deeper into your site and deeper into your business. We're not going to spend a ton of time here. It can take a while to really nail down your messaging, but I want to introduce a few concepts I'd like you to think about as we're building out your site and you continue to iterate on it over time. When somebody visits your website, typically they are not there to learn about the storied history of your family business or to marvel at how beautiful and cleverly designed your site is with little icons that float in from the left and right as you scroll down the page. Design is important, your story is important, but even more important is your customer's story. I will refer you once again to Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. The big idea that really drives the whole framework that's unpacked in this book is the fact that you are not the hero, your customer is. You play an important supporting role in your customer's story as the guide, the person who can help them solve a problem, overcome an obstacle, and complete the quest that they're on. When somebody visits your website, they don't want to read about how awesome you are. They want to read about how awesome you can make their life, how you can help them make more money, save time, improve their social standing or status, make them healthier, or unlock any other number of motivators that drive a purchasing behavior. But you just being awesome usually isn't something that's going to make somebody click buy now. Do not tell me you are the #1 car dealership in Bucks County or America's favorite vacuum cleaner repair center. Tell me why. What makes you great? Why are you #1? Spoiler alert, what makes you great is directly related to how great you are at helping people solve a problem. You can brag somewhere else, a little further down the homepage even, but right at the top, you need to let me know right away that I'm in the right place, you understand my needs, and you're able to meet them. So answer these questions. You don't need to write them down yet. We'll incorporate this content in the next lesson. But for now, I really want you to think about what problem do you solve for your customers? What do you offer, the products or services, to solve this problem? What do your customers need to do to get their problem solved? What will happen if they don't solve their problem? What are the stakes of not doing business with you? What sets you apart from alternative solutions? And do you have any proof that your solution actually works? These are some of the most important questions you need to answer to explain how you'll serve your customers and overcome any objections they have and get them to take action to do business with you. Now, let's start designing your website and figure out where we're going to be putting all this content that we've been working on. One more thing we need to talk about before we get into the technical stuff. What is your site going to look like? Now, before we get into the back end and start playing around with the page builder and looking at themes and all that fun stuff, we need to decide how your site is going to be designed. Before. I'll tell you why. Pre-made templates are great and helpful, and we'll actually be using some in just a little bit. But this is what happens a lot of times when somebody builds a WordPress site. They go somewhere like themeforest.com, a directory of thousands of pre-made themes that look beautiful. It's fun to scroll through and you find a few that you really like, but they're not quite right. Maybe they were designed with a different type of business in mind. Or maybe you're a plumber and this is a plumber theme, but still the content doesn't really line up one-to-one, but you like it, so you kind of bend the way you want to present your site in order to fit the template. But it should be the other way around. So let's bust out some art supplies before we go any further, and we're going to do a quick wireframe of your homepage. You're also going to see how we plug in the content that we've been working on in the first 2 lessons into your site. Now, your website is your website. It should be unique to you, but there are tried and true layouts that we're going to stick with. So learn the rules, follow the rules, and then break them later. if it makes sense. Here's a breakdown of some of the components that make up a strong homepage. Now, you don't need to use all of these sections, and they don't necessarily need to follow this particular order, although it's not a bad idea. Think of this as a bag of Lego blocks that you can swip and swap around to create your own unique layout, but usually following along with the Lego instructions is going to get you the best result. We'll start at the very top with the header section. Everything above the fold. That's right, we still use print era language to describe the very first thing you see when you open up a website before you have to scroll down. This calls back to the age of old-timey newspapers, when they would fold the newspapers, put them in a stack, and you'd want to include a compelling headline and a strong image, and then also the masthead, the identity. So at a glance, you could see everything you need to know to decide whether or not you're going to cough up a penny farthing or whatever these things used to cost back when news was printed on trees. Likewise, you want your website visitors to know at a glance they're in the right place, who you are. You want to include your logo, make sure it's nice and clear, a headline that states what you do, how you solve their problem, or at least alludes to it, and a nice engaging image. You're also going to include your calls to action in the header section. You don't want to make your visitors scroll down and search around to find the button they need to press to actually engage with you. Make everything clear and easy for your visitors. Here's a nice example of a header section from Murphy Marketing. Really nice, simple, clean design. The logo is in the top left corner. The call to action is in the top right. And they did something here where they just used the accent color. Most of the page is white, so any color here is going to pop out. But if they wanted to make this even punchier, they could have made this a contrasting color. Book an appointment. The menu is nice and concise, but Services expands additional options so you can jump straight to more information about the different services they offer. That's something that you can do as well. Don't need to crowd out your menu with everything up front. You can nest pages underneath these menu items there. And then we come back across to our headline. Copywriting services for complex businesses. Says clearly what it is, and it has a nice little statement here. You deserve to be heard and understood with the message you've been trying to say all along. They are talking about you. They're not talking about themselves. This is a way to connect with people. This is good stuff. And then they repeat the call to action again right here. Nice little image that relates to their business. And then we'll save this for later, but they start to unpack. This is called a value stack. We'll return to that. Here's another nice example from Concilio Wealth Advisors. Clear logo, simple menu. They got 4 there, but I guess they have a login button for existing clients. Schedule a call. Nice contrasting color. And here they have the headline centered and the image wrapped around it. Again, you can play around with different design options. Financial planning for tech professionals. Boom, that's what it is. Experience the confidence you deserve. Schedule a call. And here they have some social proof, some authority establishing as seen in Yahoo Finance, Forbes, GeekWire. Again, we'll come back to that section and different things you can include up there. We'll move through the rest of the components pretty quickly, but I wanted to make sure we took our time unpacking the header section because that is the most important part of the website to get right. Below the header section, we can do a few things. We can include a value proposition or a value stack. We've already said what we do and alluded to the value we offer our customers in our headline in the header section, but here we can use bullet points or icons or some other visual representation to just give short little snippets of the value and benefits that we offer our customers. Here's an example. We already got a sneak peek at this on the Murphy Marketing website. Right below the header, we have 3 simple boxes. Find the right words, use the right voice, attract the right people. Boom, boom, boom. Now, Murphy offers copywriting services, website design, lead generators, online course marketing, but that's not what they're saying down here. They're not just saying what they do, they're painting a picture of the end of the rainbow, what the customer will ultimately achieve by purchasing their web design, copywriting, course marketing services. Now, you don't need to only use short blurbs that talk about the end result. You can unpack your features as well. Service is a company that does a great job at presenting their features and benefits. They have the value stack here, which speaks to the end result. Get organized, free up time, achieve your mission. And below that, they have a bulleted list of some of the things that you can actually get done with their software. And below that, they have another section with icons and boxes that speak to what their company helps you do. Easy online scheduling, automatic reminders, unmatched training support, and then more bullet points below there. So it keeps your eye moving around and bumping into these bite-sized, easy-to-digest pieces of information that communicate the benefits of your company, which raises a really important point. You want to make sure your website is varied visually. You don't just want a paragraph of text and then a paragraph of text and a paragraph of text. You also don't just want a bullet point list and a bullet point list and a bullet point list. You want to change up the way that you are presenting your content. You want to use headlines, bullet points, icons, bold and highlighted and italicized text, things to help you easily skim through the page and walk away with a clear understanding of what you do, even if you don't read every single word, because people don't read every single word, unless they're weird. Some people are weird. Now we'll hop over to another website, ZenFounder, for a nice example of the next section we want to talk about, which is the stakes. What is the cost of not doing business with you? What problems will persist or get worse if they don't get solved? Here we have a picture of a bummed out guy, and the headline says, "Have you lost touch with what's most important? Are you swimming in opportunities but unsure how to level up? Perhaps it is time for a change, or time to finally stop living in survival mode." Where does the leader go for guidance, understanding, and support? Here. You come right here. It's agitating the pain and frustration that a customer is experiencing that they're looking to get rid of. It seems counterintuitive to include negative language in your marketing, but by agitating the pain point and naming the problem your visitors have, you do two things. You let them know that you understand what they're going through and that you have a solution, and you also make them feel it more vividly. You make them feel the need for what you have to offer. The only thing I think this section is missing is you could repeat the call to action again. Here's the problem. Instead of saying, "You come right here," you could say, "Click here, let's solve your problem." This site actually doubles down on the stakes, and the section below it has a bullet point list of frustrating things that their customers are experiencing. Feeling tired and overwhelmed, foggy about who you are and what matters to you. Again, if you can clearly call out your customer and name the problems they have, you're going to establish a pretty strong connection with them and build trust that you are the person to solve their problems. But you can further establish trust and authority with some of these next sections. Include social proof, such as reviews, testimonials, or a list of clients that you've worked with. Back to Murphy, we've given hundreds of businesses the right words, and here is a short list of some of them. And there's a link to read case studies. You want to let your visitors know you're not just making this up, you have real-life examples. You've got references that you can point people to. Depending on the sort of business you run and what you know your prospective customers are looking for, you might want to push the social proof and the testimonials higher up on the page. For instance, if you're a local service provider, such as an electrician, a plumber, or HVAC company, people probably already know what you do when they get to your site. So it's less important to include a value stack and more important to show that people have used you and trust you and can vouch for your good work. I've even seen some sites that include their Google review count right in the header, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad place to put that. The next section you might want to include is the plan, or a visual representation of the steps your customers can take to do business with you. This is especially important if you offer custom services or packages or something a bit more complicated than just adding an item to a shopping cart and checking out. Give your visitors stepping stones. Help them understand the first step they need to take and how that connects to the end result you offer. Here's a couple examples of what this section might look like. Back on the Concilio Wealth website, the process. 1. Complimentary intro meeting. 2. Clarify and prioritize. 3. Implement and navigate. On the service website, follow our 3-step process to volunteer management success. 1. Get a free demo. 2. Get kickstarted by our team. 3. Focus on what counts, and then a call to action to get started. Now, you have to read a little bit more. They include explainers of what these steps entail, but they break down the process of doing business with these companies in a more easy to understand and digest format. Now, there's a few more building blocks we can use in our homepage design, but the final standard component that I believe most businesses can benefit from is the explanatory paragraph. You may have noticed that we haven't been super wordy up to now. It's just been headings, bullet points, icons, images, and that's by design because people don't read, they skim websites. But if they've made it this far down the page, it's fair to assume that they're pretty interested in what you have to offer and they might want something a little bit meatier. So here you can include a paragraph or two that explains in more detail who you are, what you do, and also includes some keywords that you might want to rank for in search results. Just make sure that you still are using customer-centric language. This isn't where you go hog wild talking about your family history and everything. You're still focused on explaining how you solve your customers' problems. If you want to get a little bit more biographical, this would be a good place to link out to an About Us page where you can tell more of your story. Then some bonus blocks that you can include on your homepage or other web page if it doesn't really fit here and it might be better suited for a product or service page. You can use some of these components on there as well. You might want to include a lead generator, an ebook, a checklist, or other free resource, or just a discount for a product in exchange for them giving you your email so you can get them on your email list and nurture them towards a sale. If you have a blog or a podcast or you publish news and updates, you might have a section that has the 3 or 4 most recent posts and a link to the archive. If you sell physical goods, you can include a list of featured products or most popular products. If there's one main service that you offer, you might want to include your pricing options or different plans that are available to choose from. Otherwise, you might want to tuck that away on a specific service or product page. Some people include a frequently asked questions section right on their homepage. This is pretty popular for one-page designs. If there's one main thing that you're pointing people to and you really want them to take action and the only option that they have is to buy now or register, you need someplace to unpack some of the details, answer some of the questions they might have before they do that. So why not put it right up front on your homepage? Again, this might be content you include elsewhere on your website, but depending on your circumstances, you might want to present everything up front. And finally, at the very bottom of the web page, you have your footer. And this could be nothing. It could just be a copyright statement. All rights reserved, your business name here, and you call it a day. Or you could have links to your social media accounts, maybe terms and conditions and a privacy policy. But it could also be everything. This can be your junk drawer. Now go back to our first exercise where you listed all the pages you want to include on your website and find the pages that made you wince. I can only circle 4. I can't circle like 8 or 10. Find the other stuff that you want people to be able to get to, but you know aren't the most important things to push people to. And you can include them here in the footer. Go hog wild. Let's take a look at some examples of how other sites are doing this. Back to Murphy, because Murphy's killing it. They have their logo, just in case you forgot where you're at. A boilerplate description. This is their one-liner, their story brand guide. So they have their emblem there. And story brand really emphasizes creating a one-liner and using that everywhere you can. Very simple navigation. They don't have a ton of pages on their website, so there isn't a lot here. And their social media links and their copyright statement, privacy policy, website, link back to their website partner. Here's the Building Champions website where, well, first of all, here's a nice example of a lead generator section. But down here, they have a lot more links than what you would want to include in your main navigation, resources, and different links broken up by the types of groups of customers that they serve. About links, our approach, results, coaches, staff, careers. That's a great place to put job opportunities, and a lot of people now know this is where you go to find some of this nitty-gritty information like this. Again, I'm giving you pretty standard ways of building out a website. I'm not telling you to build your website in a way that's going to surprise and confuse people. The junk drawer footer approach is pretty common practice. Here's the thing. These are not laws you need to follow. You might already have a design in mind. Chances are you've used the internet before and you've seen some really cool websites that present information in a clear and compelling way. You saw it and you said, I want to do that on my website. And you can. We're not etching anything in stone here. Websites are some of the most changeable, malleable things you can build, especially with the tools we'll be using. But to get started, we'll be pulling from this assortment of building blocks that I just presented here. We'll be using a pretty standard template just to get something on the board, and then you can go crazy from there. But not too crazy, because this really is a pretty solid structure for a homepage. Now, I have to give credit where credit is due. This homepage layout is influenced heavily by the story brand method. In fact, if you pick up a copy of Marketing Made Simple by Donald Miller, this book basically takes the story brand method and applies it to specific marketing elements and plugs it into a sales funnel, shows you how to write a one-liner, email campaigns, and even wireframe a website. And it walks through many of the components that I just highlighted: the header, the stakes, the value proposition, the plan. All of this is really straight from this book with a few tweaks here and there. Again, there's so many different ways you can approach building out a website, but I want to just give you a nice, simple framework to follow to get you started. Once you have something established, then the sky's the limit. You can go crazy and experiment with all sorts of different designs and just have a really fun time with it. But this is a great way to get you started with the foundational messaging and design elements that make up a really strong website. Do you want to see me actually sketch out a wireframe? You can jump into the next lesson and watch over my shoulder as I draw out the website that we'll actually be building for the duration of this course. Right. Let's draw some pretty pictures. Now, keep in mind, I've done this before. You take your time, there's no rush. Look around at some websites, get some inspiration. You might want to bookmark or screen clip or whatever you want to do. Kind of make a little scrapbook of some ideas that you want to use on your own website, or just sketch them down in a notebook, and then we'll assemble it all together. But you can follow along now as I just do a quick little wireframe to get ready for the next phase of our website build out. All right, so the website I'm going to be building is called Fix My Janky Website, a service for people who aren't like you and haven't learned how to make a nice, beautiful website and need a little extra help to fix it up. I can pop in there, quickly see what is the problem, and identify the top 10 opportunities to spruce up their website. So here's our header section up here that we'll start with, and we'll have a little logo. And really, I just need one link and then a call to action. And then we'll have a headline, just kind of a little subheading maybe, and some sort of image here. Maybe it'll be a little cutout with a picture of a busted, sad face website. I don't know. And then repeat the call to action below so they can get started as soon as possible. Then below that, let's do some sort of value stack. I don't know if I'll do buttons or boxes or just some icons in a white space. We can play around with different options, but let's just kind of mark that out there. Just something short and sweet, the main benefits they can expect. Now, the stakes. We'll have a stakes section. Maybe this is where I would put the frowny face website here and have just a bullet point list. I like those examples of just what are you losing, the traffic, the reputation when you have a bad, ugly, sad face website. So a little headline here, the bullet points below. I liked the one example where the guy just looked frustrated. This is like the before state. I don't know what he's doing with his arms. He's just so frazzled. And then we'll show the after state. Happy face. The champion. The person who took fate into their own hands. This could be a testimonial, actually. This could be, I have a great website now. This will be a testimonial. Let's put one there. Now, how do we actually get started? We can add a plan section. Let's, all right, this will be a continuation of our page. It's going to be simple. We're going to keep things simple here. So this is our steps, our plan. Get started. And one will be request a free audit. 2 and 3. 3 is going to be the enjoy your beautiful website. And 2 will be the actual process. Review, fixes, and we'll hash this out. But that's our 1, 2, 3. Get started. And I could, let's see, I could have a lead generator, maybe a checklist of some sort. You could see if maybe this like bumps up, have a checklist, some sort of bubble that actually breaks this plane here. That might be a cool little effect. Also, you know what? Can't forget our calls to action. We can repeat them all up and down, give people multiple opportunities to do work with you. So maybe here's a free checklist. Just fill in your email. There's your little like send button, submit. And then down here is our footer. And you know what? This is pretty basic. I don't have a lot of links, but let's just, pretend we do for now. This will actually probably just be pretty simple. This might just be a standard bar with your copyright and maybe some social media links. But I could link out to my other properties, Brero and Self-Employment Sidekick, other packages that are available, so I might keep something there. Anyways, this is a very quick and dirty wireframe. Just kind of map it out and kind of see where the different sections of content are going to plug in. And when we look at this, what do we say? We can make this another call to action. You can just, these are your cash registers. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to check out and do business with you. So in each section, you could have a call to action for them to get started. So there you go, just a quick and dirty wireframe, just something we can refer back to and keep us on course, because once we start looking at templates and themes and all the widgets we can plug into our site, we want to make sure that we're not getting carried away, that we're not getting distracted, and that we are incorporating all the important content that we need to include on our site. Congratulations, you just completed Module 1 of WordPress website in a weekend. You now have a solid foundation for the rest of your website project. And we haven't even touched your website yet. We haven't covered any of the technical stuff. That's coming very soon. I hope you can appreciate all the work that you just put in that's going to help streamline the rest of this process and make the end result that much better. You define the purpose of your website. After all, you're not just building a website for the heck of it. You have a business goal in mind, and now you understand how your website is going to help you meet that goal. You learned how to craft clear and compelling messaging that's going to resonate with your audience and drive them to take meaningful actions, convert them from visitors to customers. And you outline and wireframe your website. You should be holding a blueprint for your homepage that you can use on any web platform. All of this knowledge isn't just locked to WordPress. You can use this for Squarespace, Wix, Webflow. You can hand that wireframe to a web developer and have somebody else take care of the rest of the work for you. This is foundational stuff. Everything we talked about messaging can be applied across all of your marketing materials. So this isn't just a strong start to a web design project. This is a strong start to a whole marketing strategy. So way to go. Pat yourself on the back, pour yourself a fresh cup of coffee, eat something sweet, and meet me back here for Module 2, where we'll start plugging in all of this stuff into your website. Welcome to WordPress Website in a Weekend, Module 2. Now the fun really begins. Although, Module 1 was pretty fun. I know it was a little more theory than practice, but I hope you can appreciate that we just established a solid foundation for your website. We defined your goal, we crafted some messaging, we wireframed your website. You have a plan to move forward now, so now we just need to put the pieces together and learn how the system works. During the remainder of our time together, I'm going to help you get set up with some web hosting, register a domain name, and get that connected. We'll install WordPress, install Elementor. That's a page builder that I love and makes it super easy to build beautiful web pages. We'll use Elementor to build a few simple web pages and get everything configured and ready to take you live and start wowing your customers. Now, I just threw out a few terms just now. Let me define those for you. If you're already generally familiar with how this works, you could probably fast forward a couple minutes, but everybody else, I want to make sure that you are all comfortable and familiar with how all these pieces work together. First of all, let's talk about WordPress. There's two different versions of WordPress. There's WordPress.com and WordPress.org. WordPress.com is a managed solution similar to Squarespace. They handle all the technical stuff, they host it for you, they make it really easy to get started, but it costs a lot of money, especially considering what you're getting and what you're not getting. In order to unlock some pretty basic features like being able to install plugins, especially if you want to run an e-commerce store, you have to pay a good chunk of change. But because you're taking this course, I'm going to teach you how to save hundreds of dollars over the course of the year. WordPress.org is free open source software. There is a large, passionate developer community that's constantly improving on it and building plugins that you can use to enhance the functionality of your website. All you need to do is secure some web hosting, and I'll teach you exactly how to do that in the next couple lessons. All the freedom and flexibility that you'd have to pay $50 or more a month for WordPress.com can be yours for free, plus a small monthly fee for web hosting. So I'll teach you how to set up web hosting and your domain name, install WordPress, and install your themes and plugins that you'll use to construct your website. It might sound complicated, but trust me, it's easy. All right, the next couple sections are a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure story. There are thousands of different ways to build a website, and unfortunately, I can't walk you through step-by-step every single permutation and combination of domain registrars and web hosting providers and plugins and all the other variables that are involved with building a website. I'm doing my best to pare down the number of choices you're going to need to make for the duration of this course, but right now, you're going to need to decide on a few things. What is your domain name? If you don't already have one registered, I'll walk you through in the next lesson how to get that set up and connected to your website. 2, where do you want to host your website? There's lots of options out there, but I have 2 main recommendations for you to consider. I'll talk more about that in an upcoming lesson. Now, I'm assuming for this course that you're starting from scratch, But maybe you already have a website. Maybe you already have a WordPress website and you're familiar with some of the basics. So if you already have web hosting and your domain set up, you can skip a couple lessons and jump right into the WordPress overview. If you're already familiar with the main ins and outs of WordPress, you can skip ahead to where we start talking about Elementor. Just check the table of contents and find what lesson applies. Also, if your website is live and you're already getting a little traffic to it, we're going to need to handle this a bit differently. We need to be careful that we're not knocking down your existing site and making it inaccessible for people while we rebuild a new one. Otherwise, you can click into the next lesson and we will get started with getting your domain registered. All right, let's get you set up with a great domain name. Now, normally I'm not a huge proponent of worrying about naming the band before you learn how to play the instruments and practice any songs, but in this case, it's not a bad idea to have your domain registered before you get your web host set up and take other steps to build your website. The reason being, some web hosts will ask you right up front what your domain is. Some will try to sell you a domain. I like using a separate domain registrar from your web service, but again, choose your own adventure. When you are choosing a domain, be thoughtful. Try to keep it short and simple, easy to say, and easier to hear. Try to avoid words that might be mistaken for other words. Sometimes when you say something, it could be spelled a number of different ways. For example, if your website is colossusofroads.com, but it's spelled R-O-A-D-S, that'd be very clever, but you'd find yourself having to explain how to spell the domain in addition to saying the domain. Honestly, I think it's a cool name for a business, but understand what you're getting yourself into. Fiverr is a very popular brand. It's spelled with 2 R's. I don't know how much money they needed to spend to get the brand awareness to the level where people knew to type in that second R. Just be thinking about these things as you're choosing a domain name. Also, please avoid using hyphens in your domain name. I've seen it happen lots of times. I'm imagining somebody was looking for the perfect domain name, buckscountyplumber.com, but found it was already taken. So they resort to hyphenating the words, bucks-county-plumber.com. But do you hear how clunky that is to say? Also, it's very hard to type, especially on a mobile device where sometimes you have to switch to a different keyboard mode to get to the punctuation marks. Just don't do it. You know what is a better way to handle that? Use some new top-level domains. .com is the gold standard for domain names, but there are hundreds of new different endings for your website that you can explore. Here's just a sample of some of your options. .dev, .me is very popular for just personal websites and blogs. .app, .to, .inc, .website, .club, .best, .store, .pro, .fm, .space, .vip, .life, .shop, .host, .fun, .biz, and there's so many more. Go to your domain registrar and see what is available and pick something that fits your business and your brand. Now, I'm on namecheap.com. They are a nice, cheap solution for registering a domain. You can expect to pay about $12 to $14 for a .com. Other domain endings could be a little cheaper. Some specialty domain endings could be pretty expensive. .ai is $89, $98 per year. So just be mindful of how much your domains cost. Typically, you renew a domain every year. I highly recommend whoever you choose to register your domain through that you choose the auto renew feature just to avoid the possibility of your domain expiring, in which case your website won't be accessible anymore. Domain registrars like Namecheap and Google Domains essentially just sell you the service of adding your domain to a ledger. The actual location of your website is just a string of numbers called the IP address, but a domain can serve as an alias, an easy-to-remember phrase that people can type in to get to that string of numbers. just in case I ever forgot my wife's actual phone number, which I never would, I could still type in honey bunches and still call the right person. I don't know if that's actually the best analogy for this situation, but you get the idea. Anyways, let's go ahead and register your domain now. It's really straightforward. These guys make it easy to do business with them. You search for your domain, fixmybustedwebsite.com, and it will let you know if it's available. Right now they have a sale, so I can add this to cart. And just like you would with any other online shopping interface, you go ahead through the checkout process. Now, I mentioned Namecheap does try to upsell you on a few things like SSL certificate, WordPress hosting, web hosting, a lot of stuff. Skip all the upsells, but one thing I want to point out that Namecheap and Google Domains does include in the cost of your domain registration is domain privacy. Keep that enabled. This keeps people from being able to see your name and contact information that's associated with your domain. So we'll confirm our order and we will log into an existing account or create a new account if you don't already have one. It's a very straightforward process. Let me just hop over to Google Domains real quick and take a look at their interface. It's a much cleaner, simpler interface. In the top left-hand corner, you click Get a New Domain, fixmybustedwebsite.com. They will show you the results. They give you some helpful insights about your name, considerations people might hear MI instead of MY and type the wrong name. Like I said, make sure that your domain name is nice and clear. You can view all the available endings in case .com is already taken, or in case you choose to go with a new top-level domain. You might even consider purchasing a few domains and have them all point to your main website just to kind of protect your brand and make sure that people are getting to the right place in case they type in the wrong ending. Click it to add to cart and you go through the rest of your checkout process. Privacy protection is on by default. Auto renew is on by default. Go through the checkout process and be sure to check your email afterwards. Sometimes registrars will send a verification link that you need to click just to finalize the registration process. We'll leave it there for now. We'll come back to your registrar towards the end to make sure your records are pointing to the right direction. But now we need to go take care of your website. I'm doing my best to pare down the number of choices you need to make for the duration of this course, but right now you need to decide on who is going to host your website. In the spirit of streamlining things, I'm going to present two options for you to choose between, but there are dozens, if not hundreds, of different web hosts out there. You can do your own research and come back here after you get everything set up. But right now, I'm going to recommend that you take a look at WPMU Dev Hosting and Hostinger. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty and the technical differences between these two options. In a nutshell, Hostinger is cheap shared hosting that gets the job done, and WPMU Dev is reasonably priced dedicated hosting that gives you access to a lot of bells and whistles. A few highlights. In addition to high-performance hosting, you get daily backups, built-in security features, and access to a suite of pro plugins that are going to help you with things like image optimization, SEO, advanced customizations. They have a form builder. They have like a marketing pop-up and marketing campaign builder. And I can't forget to mention their support team is top-notch. Plans start at around $12 a month, and they have options to grow as your business and your website grows and needs more resources. But I have just about all of my clients set up on WPMU Dev's entry-level plan, and we haven't experienced any issues with performance or using too many resources. It gets the job done. I think it's a great place to start. If you are a little bit more budget conscious, then you can take a look at Hostinger. Hostinger is shared hosting, and by that I mean your website is going to live on the same server, the same machine as a number of other websites. Shared hosting is more affordable than the alternative, but you are potentially sacrificing performance and security to get that lower price point. One way to explain it, with dedicated hosting, everybody has their own milkshake. With shared hosting, everybody has their own straw, but they're all sucking out of the same big bowl of melted ice cream. I'll let you sit with that image in your mind for a little bit. It's not as gross as that picture I just painted for you, but you do have to worry about backwash in a way. If somebody gets a virus on their website, it's not necessarily going to trickle in and get on your website, although it has happened in the past. Another thing you need to worry about is if somebody is really, really hungry and they're sucking on that straw super hard, they have a lot of visitors on their website. Maybe they're an e-commerce store and they're running a promotion and thousands, millions of people are hammering their website and trying to access all of those resources. It might not leave anything in the bowl for you temporarily. You might experience slow loading times or other performance issues. But as far as shared hosting goes, Hostinger is a solid option, and they include a lot of things for free, like backups and SSL certificates that a lot of their competitors like to upsell you on. And their support is pretty snappy and pretty accommodating. Do a little bit of research, see which scenario fits your situation the best. The choice is yours, and yours alone. I'll provide tutorials on how to set up WPMU Dev or Hostinger if you want to choose one of those options. If you want to go with a third option, most hosts will provide a walkthrough on how to get started with that. So whatever you choose, I'll leave you to go set up your account, follow the instructions to install WordPress on your host, and then you can meet me back here for the next steps. Before we proceed any further, let's take a few minutes to link up your domain name with your website. There's a few scenarios where you might want to hold off on this until later, especially if you are redesigning an existing website. If people are trying to access your website now, you don't want the domain to point to an unfinished version. You want to hold off until that's completely built and let them access your current site for the meantime. We'll link up everything later after your website is completed and you're ready to take it live. Otherwise, it's not a bad idea to get this linked up sooner than later just to avoid any possible linking issues. If we build out the site now, everything is going to reference the temporary URL. When we switch things over, hosts usually do a good job at automatically mapping your links to the new domain, but sometimes there's issues. I'm actually working with a client right now to go through the website and manually update a few links that got missed when we switched over to the new version of the website. The exact process is going to vary based on your web host and your domain registrar. I will walk you through step by step how to do this with WPMU Dev and Google Domains, but you should be able to easily find documentation on how to do this with your specific service providers. Under hosting, let's click Domains and add a domain. Now we don't need to include http:// we'll just write in the main domain, fix my janky website, and you can click here to also add www.fixmyjankywebsite. We will leave add DNS records unchecked for now. I prefer to handle the DNS records directly on the registrar side for a number of reasons. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and basically the DNS records are the rules that apply to that domain. There's different types of records, like A records, that's the address records. Where does the domain name point to? And there's MX records for email, there's text records for different types of verifications. It can get pretty advanced. Right now, we just need to update the A record. So down here, we see the A record, and this even kind of walks us through, tells us what we should be looking for. If you manage DNS at your domain registrar or third-party DNS manager, use the following records to point your domain to the site hosted here. So I'm going to click here and copy this, and then I'm going to go to Google Domains. I'm going to find the domain that we want to manage, fixmyjankywebsite.com, and under here I'm going to click on DNS. Don't have any records yet. We're going to add a new one. It is going to be an A record, and it is expecting a number like that IP address. We'll paste that here. And for the host name, we're just going to leave this blank because it's just referring to the main domain. We'll click Save, and there we go. All right, we also want www to redirect to our main site. So we are going to create a new record. This will be a CNAME record, and we'll type www, and the domain will be fixmyjankywebsite.com, and save. We'll go back to our web host and we'll take a look at the DNS status. DNS records can take up to 24 or 48 hours to take effect, but usually it's just a few minutes. So I'm going to click here and recheck the DNS and see if we've made any progress. And there we go. We have a green valid DNS detected check mark, and now it's going to automatically generate an SSL, a security certificate. So our site is going to show up as secure. Also recheck for the www version and got a green check on that as well. And in a few minutes, we should see the SSL status turn to green check. Let's recheck this one more time. And all right, green check marks all over the place. Now we can click these three dots and set this as our primary domain. Are you sure? I am sure. We'll give it a few minutes to think. And now, all right, pull that down so you can see if I type in my domain name, it takes me to the website. This isn't what I want it to look like. This is the standard WordPress 2023 theme starter page. We'll take care of this in a second, but I'm happy to see that the domain works. And up here, we have the little lock icon. It says connection is secure. So we're good to go. Again, the process might look a little different for you depending on your domain registrar and your web host, but the main thing to look for is the A record. You want to find your IP address and add an A record on the registrar side that points your website to the IP address. That's the main thing you need to take care of. You can refer to your web host or domain registrar support for specific steps. All right, it's been a long journey, but we have finally arrived. We have a WordPress website installed on our web hosting, except this looks nothing like our website. Mind blown. This isn't even the name of our website. Don't worry, we're going to change all of this. This is just some pre-populated content that comes default when you first install WordPress. They just want you to see what you have to work with and how different themes will render different content. And here is our world famous Hello World first post and a sample page up here in the menu. They just kind of give you these default starter content. We can delete this or hide this in just a second, but here's your website. Now, to log in to the back end, go to mywebsite.com/login, or you can also go to /wp-login or wp-admin. They'll all take you to this same page where you can use your credentials that you set up when you first got your WordPress website set up on your host. Just in case you forgot what your password is, you can click Lost Your Password and you'll get an email with a link to reset your password. And welcome to the WordPress dashboard. The very first thing that you will see is the dashboard, and sometimes you might see some boxes up here that you can click dismiss. We'll close that. There might be other notifications from plugins. If you have a premium subscription for one of your plugins, they might give you reminders there, or anything else you need to take action on. Otherwise, they give you some of these little boxes here that we honestly can just kind of collapse or ignore entirely. The dashboard is just kind of a little foyer before you walk into the real meat and potatoes of your website. And let me point out something right up front that a lot of people miss. We can click Screen Options and actually toggle some of these boxes off. But if you really want to customize it, sometimes plugins will give you little boxes, little dashboards, activity monitors, like this site health status. You might find it helpful, and you can leave these here and open and move it around and customize your dashboard to your liking. I don't use it that much, so we're just going to leave that here and move on to our tour of WordPress. It's pretty intuitive. If you just spend a few minutes clicking around, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to figure out what everything does. But let me just do a quick little drive-by, and we'll start with the top bar up here. In the very top left-hand corner is our WordPress icon. You can ignore this. It's just some links to documentation and more information about WordPress. But next to that, this is actually helpful. You will see your website name up here, and if you click that, it will take you to the homepage of your website. You also see that when you're logged in, this black bar will show across all of your pages. And that's nice because you can quickly edit the page from here or access other links and take action on your website from the front end. But let's go back to the dashboard for now and keep taking a look at what else is on this top bar. This little cycle symbol with a number next to it indicates that there is an update available for a plugin, a theme, or the WordPress version. We'll talk about updates a little bit later. Next to that is this little chat icon. That is your pending comments. We have 0 right now, and we might just end up deactivating that altogether, depending on how you want to use your website, whether or not you have a blog. It usually gets pretty spammy up in there. There's different ways that you can manage that, but the way I manage that is just to deactivate comments altogether. Next to that, we have this plus sign and new. And if you hover over that, we have post, media, page, and user. You can add a new blog post, upload a new image for your website, add a new page, or add a new user, somebody who has access to your website, either as an editor or a customer, if you want to give access to somebody that way. And then next to that, we see Smart Crawl Pro. That's just a plugin that I have installed on the website. That actually came pre-installed because I set this up using WPMU Dev. You might see different links up here depending on the plugins that you have installed and active. You'll also see different links in the sidebar depending on what plugins you have on your website. These came installed by default when I got this set up with WPMU Dev. Depending on your website host, you might have some other pre-installed plugins. You can go into your plugins menu and just deactivate and delete them if you don't want to use them. But we'll talk about that in more detail in another lesson. But moving to the right-hand side of the top bar is your profile. You can edit your profile or log out. You can just add some more information. If you're the sole owner and user of the website, this doesn't really matter that much. But if you have multiple users, multiple contributors, writing content, different blog posts, you will want to take some time and flesh out your profile here because that's going to show up in your byline for any articles that you write. That's the top bar. Now let's take a look at the sidebar. Back to the dashboard, we already took a look at this, and below that we see updates. Again, this is the same link as the little cycle icon. That number indicates that there is something there to take action on. We'll come back to that a little bit later. I'm going to skip over WPMU Dev for now. That is specific to that plugin. You might not see that in your instance, so we're going to jump down to, let's call this the main pack of WordPress links. Posts, media, pages, comments, appearance, plugins, users, tools, and settings. These 9 links should appear standard on just about every WordPress installation, regardless of what plugins you have installed or where you're hosting it. Posts are any content like blog posts, news articles, updates, press releases, anything that follows a standard format. You categorize it, it appears in an archive or a collection. You can define different categories for your blog post here or tags if you want to organize your content that way. The media library is where you'll upload all of your images that you use on the website. You can also upload audio files or PDFs or other types of media. But I will say real quick, if you're going to upload a lot of audio, like if you're using this for a podcast, I'd highly recommend that you use a separate hosting service for that. There's also different plugins available to help you organize files. If you're going to have a lot of worksheets and PDFs and documents that you want people to be able to download, there are plugins that you can use, and I can link to a few of them in the notes below that are helpful for organizing PDFs and other documents that you link to from your website instead of just mixing them all into the media library. I usually use the media library mostly just for images. Below that are pages. Now, pages are different from posts in that they are one-offs. They're static content pages. They aren't going to be categorized or archived. Comments, as I mentioned, are probably going to quickly spam up. You'll see a running list of pending comments build up here, and you can, well, this is already approved by default, but we can unapprove, approve, spam or trash or reply to comments from this screen. If we click Appearance, we will see the list of different themes that we have available for our site. By default, WordPress installs and activates their 2023 theme here. They also have some older themes that, honestly, I like to click in here and delete them. Because I'm not going to be using them. They're just going to be something that, you know, they run updates every now and then. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these, but I'll keep 2023. We're not going to use 2023, but it's good to have one of the default themes available just in case something goes wonky. You need to revert it to a default to just troubleshoot any issues. But we'll come back to this in the next lesson when we start configuring and installing the new theme that we're going to use. The editor link is specific to customizing the 2023 theme. We're going to skip over that for now and take a look at plugins. Here we have a list of all the plugins on our website. And here we can see that Forminator Pro has a new update available. I'm going to go ahead and click Update now and get that cooking. From this screen, you can deactivate plugins that you no longer wish to use. You can run updates like I just did. You can delete them after you deactivate them, and you can add new plugins either from the repository. You can search for popular plugins, or sometimes you need to upload a plugin from a file you download elsewhere. That is all managed on this plugins page. The users panel, again, if you are the only person running your website, you probably don't need to worry about this too much. But if you have people helping you out and contributing blog post content, you can add new and create a user account for them here. Down here, you can set their role to author, editor, or administrator. These all have different levels of access to your website. I believe contributors can write a draft of a post but not publish it. An author can publish a post. An editor has more access to the settings. And then an administrator has full reign of the website. So be careful with who you give admin access to. If you need support, maybe you want me to take a look at the back end of your website and help you with a design or troubleshoot something, or you have another support agent from WPMU Dev or your host, sometimes they will ask for admin access. You can create an account for them using this panel. Gonna just breeze through tools for now. Sometimes if you activate a plugin, the link for that plugin settings will appear underneath tools or settings. The main one that you might find helpful, if you have an existing WordPress website, you can use the import and export function there to help migrate data from your old website to your new website. And below that, we have settings. I'm going to hit pause right now and come back in the next lesson to take a deeper dive into these settings and give you a good starter configuration for your website. In this lesson, I'm going to go over a little standard operating procedure that I follow for just about every WordPress website I build out. We are going to do some basic core WordPress configurations, just setting the name of your website, making sure the time zone is set correctly. We're also going to install a new theme and the plugins that we're going to be using to build out our site. So let's log into our website. Here we are in the dashboard, and under settings, we'll go to General, and here we're going to change the name. By default, it's the URL, but we can change this to whatever you want to call it. For the tagline, you can use a short keyword-rich description of what your business does. Give your old website new life. The WordPress address and site address should already be set. If you ever need to change the administration email, you can do that here. There's a few other settings here regarding new users, if you want to allow people to register for your website, or if you want to manually register them or use another process. We'll skip that for now. Let's set the time zone. You can choose your date format, time format, and week starts on Sunday for me, and save changes. Simple stuff. That didn't hurt, did it? Now let's take a quick look at writing. Everything looks good here for now. But here you can do things like change your default post category. Now under reading, we're going to set our homepage. But before we do that, we need to create a homepage. So we're going to click, or rather hover over pages, click add new, and just create a homepage. I'll do a quick tour of the block editor and a little bit later. But for now, we just want to publish our homepage. And we'll go back to the dashboard. We'll just click the W and go back to settings, to reading. Now, under your homepage displays, you can choose between your latest post. If you just have a blog, your latest post is fine, but we're building a business website, so we're going to click a static page. And for your homepage, we're going to choose home that we just created and click save. I will also point out here, there's a toggle box for discourage search engines from indexing this site. Make sure this box is unchecked. Otherwise, search engine bots are not going to index your site. You might want to check it if you are doing like a big rebuild of a website while you still have your current website up and you don't want Google to be finding your in-progress website, but most cases, let's just leave this unchecked for now. Now we'll also go down to discussion. Now, I talked about how I prefer to just deactivate comments altogether on my Now I talked about how I prefer to just deactivate comments altogether on my website. You can do that from this settings here. Uncheck the allow people to submit comments on new post box. Or we could leave this checked, but let's check this box. Automatically close comments on posts older than 14 days, or we can set this to however many days. That will limit the number of posts that are going to be susceptible to spam and still give your readers, especially if they're active and they follow you, they subscribe, and they want to engage with you, that gives them a little window where they could engage with your post but not leave it open forever for people to potentially spam you. There's some other settings that you can explore here on your own time. One very helpful one is you can identify words or phrases that if somebody includes that in a comment, you can flag it as highly likely to be spammed, and it'll just automatically spam it or block it. So you might want to write something like .ru to filter out Russian bots or Cialis. Going to skip over media and click on permalinks. And we're going to change our permalink structure to post name and save changes. Under privacy, we have some information on how to write a privacy policy, and you can define which page contains your privacy policy. That just helps flag search engines and other directories to know that you do have a privacy policy and where to direct your visitors to find that information. So that's all of the general settings. Now let's go install a few plugins and themes. Let's go back to Appearance and click Add New. And it's actually right here. This is Hello theme that we're going to use, but you could also search, if it doesn't show up there, you can search for Hello and find Hello Elementor and install. And once it's done installing, click the blue Activate button. This is for Elementor by Elementor. Gives us a little prompt right here where we can install Elementor right away. You can click that button. You can also go to the plugins menu and click Add New and search for Elementor here. Install Elementor and activate. Once you activate Elementor, it's going to take you to a little walkthrough and prompt you to create an account. And I'll encourage you to go ahead and do this because by creating an account, it's going to give you access to some free templates and some other goodies. But you can skip this for now if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and click create an account. I already have an account, so I'm going to connect the existing one that I have. Then on the next page, it's going to pull our site name that we already defined in our settings. That's fine. Now, do you have a logo? We can add it here. So let's open the media library and we can find a logo if we already uploaded it. We don't have one here, so we're going to select files. And on your computer, you can find the image that you want to use for your logo. If you don't have a logo, you can whip up a simple one using free tools like Canva, or just do a Google search for free logo builder and just get something in there, at least temporarily. Upload my logo from the computer. And while we're here, there's a box for alt text. Always try to add a value for alt text, something that is descriptive of the image. This is good for SEO. It's also good for accessibility in case somebody is visually impaired and they're visiting your website. A screen reader will still be able to read a description of the image that they can't otherwise see. So I will say fix my janky website logo and select. We'll click next. And now that's a wrap. What's next? There are two ways to get started with Elementor. Edit a blank canvas with the Elementor editor, or browse from over 100 templates or import your own. I'm going to skip this for now. And when I'm done with that, it's going to automatically load the Elementor interface. And it has a little pop-up here about the new feature, Elementor AI, which I haven't really dug into that much, but they're starting to integrate AI right into this tool. It's really exciting. Now we're back to the WordPress dashboard. Looks like we are at the Elementor settings feature. So now that we've added that plugin, I highlighted how you'll see some extra links in your sidebar, depending on the plugins that you have installed. After we installed Elementor, that added a new link here so we can access different settings and tools, custom fonts, and templates comes along with Elementor. That got added to our sidebar with the Elementor plugin. So those are a few initial steps I take with every website when I get started. Now that we made those simple configurations and have Elementor installed and the Hello theme activated, we can start building out our website. All right, so we have our hosting set up, we've installed WordPress, we've installed the Hello theme and Elementor. Now we have all the pieces we need to finally start building and designing our website. Now let's take a look at our website. What does it look like now? Not much. It's the logo, it's the tagline, give your old website new life, the title of the homepage, there's no other content here. Yeah, it has quite a bit of work. We got to fix this janky website. So let's click on Edit Page, and this is going to load the default WordPress builder. WordPress has come a long way from being just a simple blogging platform to a full site builder. And very similar to popular page builders like Elementor that we'll be using, you can add a block, you can add some elements. Let's do a 50-50 column here. Click in that and add a paragraph and type the content we want to appear, and so on and so forth. Maybe over here, let's click plus, and we could add an image or a gallery. Let's click browse all and see all the other elements that we can include here. There's a lot, but it still has a little ways to go. I think they have seen what page builders are doing and they're trying to catch up, but I still prefer to use Elementor because it is so advanced. It goes far beyond the capabilities of the native WordPress builder. So let's use that and start designing our homepage. To do that, we click this button up here. It says Edit with Elementor, and it will load a whole new user interface. When you edit a page in Elementor, it launches a completely different user interface. You're taken to a completely different world. So let me do a quick rundown of what we have here. In the right side, we have a live view of our page design. In the sidebar, we have all of our tools, and they are nested inside little menus and tabs, and this will change depending on what you're trying to do and what element you have selected. So it's as easy as dragging and dropping elements from this drawer. Let's pull in an intersection so we can have 2 columns here. And then when we did that, we saw the sidebar changed, and now we are looking at the settings for that particular element. We have the layout, the style, and some advanced settings. Let's click on this little 9 square icon in the top right-hand corner of the drawer to get back to our elements. And let's drag over an image, and let's click back and bring in our text editor. Let's scroll down and let's add a new section below this. Let's click the plus sign and let's choose the 3-column layout, and let's pull in an icon down here. When you hover over one of these elements, you'll see this little pencil edit icon. You can right click that and click on edit icon. That will load the settings in the sidebar for that particular element. You can also duplicate, copy, paste, save as a global element. There's a number of things you can do from right-clicking it. Let's duplicate this, and we'll drag that over, and we'll duplicate it again, drag that into our 3rd column. So that's just an example of how easy it is. You're just dragging and dropping elements. Now, let's look at the settings for each of these elements. Let's click on the image. Now, each element has 3 sections of settings. You have content, style, and advanced. For the image element, we can choose the image from our media library. Let's upload a new one here. We'll load a new image to our library. Remember to add some alt text. Select, and that drops that image right in here. Perfect. Now maybe I want this to link somewhere. So on the drop-down menu, I can choose a custom URL. I can define where this image would link to. If you click it, I can click Style, and I can change the width of the image, the height of the image. We can set this by percentage value or pixels or a few other units here. We can mess around with the object fit to fill or cover or contain it within the width that we've defined. There's a lot of nitty-gritty settings for each specific element that just give you a lot of control, a lot of flexibility over your layout. Let's leave that there for now and click into the text box, see what sort of settings we have here. So we can change this to 2 columns, and it will automatically divide your text into 2 columns or more. You can define the column gap. We can go up into style and change the alignment. Let's center the text. Let's change the color of the text. Let's go into the typography settings and change the font family of the text. And we have access to just about all of the Google fonts are preloaded on here. Let's change the size of the text, and so on and so forth. Weight, transform, uppercase, style, normal, italic. You can change the line height, the letter spacing, the word spacing. Very granular settings, and they change from element to element. Under advanced, you can change the margin and padding of the element. Margin is the space around an element, and padding is the space within an element. You can think of margin as the space around a picture frame, and margin would be the mat, the space between the frame and the photo. There's also settings for motion effects. You can have an entrance animation, have something fade in. You can transform. You can add a little bit of rotation to your element. You can change the background of the element. You can also change the responsive settings. Maybe you don't want this element to display on mobile view, so you can hide it there. Lots of customizations, lots of great stuff. And if that isn't enough control, you can upgrade to the Pro version and edit custom CSS. These sections and columns have settings themselves, so you can change the content width. You can set the vertical alignment to top or bottom. You can set the vertical alignment of the elements within these containers. And also, you can drag to change the width of these columns as well. It's really easy and simple to get started, pretty intuitive, but there's plenty to dig into, and there's lots of tutorials out there to learn about all these granular settings and how to do some really advanced customizations. Continuing our tour of the user interface, let's go down here to the bottom. Down here we have settings. You can change the title of the page. You can set it to publish, private, or draft. You can hide the title in case you don't want to use the default title and you want to bring in maybe a different heading element for this page and style the heading some other way. Next to that, we have the navigator. We click that and we open up this little box where we see an outline view of all the elements in our website. So you can collapse this. You can rename this by double clicking, and we could call this hero section or what have you to make it easy to navigate. We can find the elements and click directly on them to open up their particular settings panel over there. We can drag and drop to reorder these elements. So I can take that image out of that column and move it into the one next to it. We can do all sorts of stuff. And if you mess up anything, just like a text editor or most any other software, you can just Control-Z, Command-Z to undo and undo any problems, any boo-boos that you might have accidentally stumbled into. Next to the navigator icon is history. Elementor keeps a log of all of the changes you have made, all of the actions, and in case Command-Z doesn't do the trick, you can go back and revert to a change that you made much earlier on in the process, or you can click the revisions tab and you can revert the page to a previous iteration before you did any actions on it. I'm going to go ahead and do that and give us a blank slate to work with so I can show off the template features. But before we do that, let's finish up our tour. Next to the history icon is responsive mode. When you click that, a bar will appear at the top of your preview screen, and you can toggle between the desktop, tablet, or mobile portrait view of your page to make sure that everything is showing properly across different devices and screen widths. Let's go back to desktop. We can turn off responsive mode, and next to that we have this eye icon. We can click to preview changes. It will load a preview of your web page in a separate tab so you can see what it looks like without all the Elementor UI stuff and make sure that it looks good, functions properly before you publish any changes. So we'll close that tab and come back here. And finally, when you are ready to update, you can click the update button. Next to that, you can click this little arrow to get a few more options. You can save your page as a draft if you're not ready to publish it, or you can save it as a template. If you really love the layout of your site and you want to reuse it for another page that's going to have a similar look, you can save it as a template and easily reuse that. Finally, let's go up to the top left-hand corner for some more basic settings. You have site settings, a theme builder, and user preferences. We can come up here and set global colors. By default, we have this light blue primary color, and all of the accent colors are going to be this green. So let's take a look. We can have a button, and by default, it has this green color, and every button will, by default, have this green color. You can go in and change that using styles, but if you see this little pink globe appear, that means it's pulling from global settings. So we can change the green for all buttons, all elements that are pulling global styles by changing the site settings over here. And under global colors, we can change the accent color to pink. And there we can see every element, everywhere that was using that green global accent color is now going to change to pink. This is very handy if you have a lot of elements. This is a huge time-saving feature. We can also likewise set global fonts, so we don't have to manually change the font of every heading and every text box. We can choose what we want to use for our global font family. Just for kicks, I love Rubik. That's what I use on the Self-Employment Sidekick. So let's just choose Rubik. You can go into set your global typography rules, so all H1 headings will be a certain font family. When I did that, you saw how the title changed. All links will be a certain color. You can set these global style rules across your entire site, so you don't have to edit them element by element. Huge time-saving feature. Likewise, we can style the buttons. Likewise, we can define styles for buttons, images, form fields, and let's click header. Now here, we can tweak a few things. We can toggle off the tagline. We can choose whether or not we want to show a menu in our header. We haven't created a menu yet. We'll take care of that later. We can set the content width for the header. We can set the width of the logos. We can shrink that down to be a little bit more manageable. And likewise, we can jump into the footer, and we can hide the site logo, hide the tagline. We just want to leave the copyright text there, and here we can define what appears in that copyright section. Copyright 2023 Self-Employment Sidekick. All rights reserved. Woohoo! Change the color, the typography, so on and so forth, and update. So that's a quick overview of the Elementor interface. It's really powerful. It goes really deep, but it's also pretty intuitive. And if you just take a few minutes, which I encourage you to do right now, just click around, play around, explore all the nooks and crannies, the different tabs, see how they change, look at the different elements, right-click on stuff. Just have fun. Get a feel for how it works. And don't be scared of messing anything up. We haven't gone that far. There's not much to mess up quite yet. And if you do something where you're like, oh my goodness, I totally broke it, just Command-Z or use the History tab and revert to a previous revision. Or worst case scenario, like it's just a hot mess, you can just reload the page before you update anything, and it'll just reset everything back to where it was before you started playing around with it. So take some time, play around, and I'll see you in the next lesson. We're going to dig into some templates and build out your homepage. Okay, so Elementor is really cool, really powerful, but it's a little overwhelming. It goes really deep, and I'm not sure where to get started with this. I have my wireframe from Module 1, so we have a nice little guidebook, but how do I actually use Elementor and all of its power to make my website look the way I want? What's the first thing I should do? The first thing you should do is cheat. Actually, it's not cheating. It's just further unlocking the power of Elementor. Let's use its template feature. Let's go back to our homepage, and instead of clicking to add a new section, let's click the folder icon to open up our templates. Now we have blocks, pages, and my templates. We can have custom templates that we've created and saved. Blocks are page sections, and you can search through different types like About Us and Calls to Action. You can see what is included here. You can unlock additional blocks by upgrading to Pro. Some developers have made templates that you can install. So there's lots of ways just to kind of get a quick leg up, a jump start on your build out. So let's take a look at this one here. You can click the magnifying glass to get a preview of it. And if we like that, we can click insert, and we'll pull that whole block right into our web page. And then we could just click that. We can just click the image and choose another image to replace that with. And we can update the heading to say, Hiya, and so on and so forth. You just start with a block and you customize it as you see fit. But I'll do you one better. Let's delete that block, go back to the folder icon and click Pages. We can pull in an entire page template. not just blocks, but we can use any of these templates. Well, not any of them. Some of these are restricted to pro users. And again, third-party developers have made templates that you can import into Elementor. So I'll link to a few resources below where you can find additional pre-made templates that you can pull into your site. But this one right here, let's preview it. It's called Wireframe Home 1. Let's click that and take a look. This is actually a very solid start. I like this one a lot. So let's click Insert. Now it's asking if we should apply the settings of this page too. I'm not going to apply because I don't want it to override the universal settings that I have created. So we'll bring that in, and there you go. Let's scroll through here real quick and see what we're working with. Really good. Okay, so we don't need this. I think this was like the logo and phone number. We're going to have our own header here, so we can delete this. Again, this is just a starting point. You're not locked to it. You can rearrange all of these. You can bring it in and delete what you don't like. Let us also hide the home title. Let's click into settings, hide title. Yes. Maybe you want to show the title for other pages, usually not homepage. Let's scroll down. All right, this About Us section is pretty cool with this little image gallery, but I don't want it here. I want something else first. This Why Choose Us benefit 1, 2, 3, 4. That looks an awful lot like our value stack. Let's bring this up a little bit higher. So let's toggle our navigator, and here we can find our benefits. Click that just to make sure that highlighted when I clicked it. And let's drag this up underneath the hero section. There you go. There it is. There's our value stack right where we want it to be. So you can get a feel for, now we're just moving things around. We have a good starting place. We're not starting with that horrifying blank sheet of paper. We have something now where we can start clicking into and replacing the default content with our own content. So let's start doing that now. Let's put in our own headline. We'll copy and paste some of my content in there. Change contact us to request an audit. Maybe I'll drag this column over a little bit. No, that's an okay size. Let's update this image. We'll choose the image, and behind the scenes I installed a plugin called Instant Images that gives us access to Unsplash, Pixabay, Pexels, other open source Creative Commons free to use images. So let me search for frustrated. Instead of having to go find something, download it, I can search for it straight in here. So let's see, frustrated. Let's pull this lady in. And it already has alt text for you too, so that's nice. We'll select that. So I'm just going to go through and just customize this, make this look the way that I want. So this is a little high here. I want to shrink this down so I can look at the settings, like why does it look this way? Let's click and we'll look at the settings, how it's configured. I see that VH, which is the viewport height, is set to 90%. So that means that this section is going to take up 90% of the window. I can shrink this down to a percentage, or I could use a pixel percentage. That's just the minimum height, and that brings the rest of this content up a little bit closer underneath. I can click in Advance, and I can add some padding or margin to the top. Let's do that. Let's do 20 or 50 pixels. Push that down so it's not too snug against the header up there. Let's go down here. Don't want that headline. I just want to list the benefits, so I can right click and delete the heading, but leave the benefits here. All right, targeted improvements, quick turnaround, and cost-effective solution. And I don't have a third one, so I can click this column here, right click this column and delete, and it'll automatically go down to 3. Maybe I want to put a little color behind there. So let me click that, go to Style, and I can set the background color. Click Classic, that's just background. You also can choose gradient, or you have a video background if you want, or an image or a slideshow. I'm just going to choose a simple color. Let's just do a light gray just to kind of separate it from the black, or separate it from the white. Let's keep moving further down. On my wireframe, I have a image here. Here we have 4 images. I could pull in 4 images, or I could just replace this with 1. If I want, I could actually duplicate this hero section and kind of flip it around. Let's just see what that looks like. So I can duplicate that and use Navigator, or Control I as a shortcut to load your Navigator. Now we have 2 heroes. Let me drag this down below the benefits, and then I can drag this column over to the left and switch sides and work from there. That might be quicker than deleting that. And you know what? That's actually a better image for the stakes. Let's replace that with an image that screams beautiful web design. That works. And we'll swap that in there. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a minute. I think you get the gist of how this works. You can rearrange the elements, remove what you don't want, edit what you want to keep, and swap in your own content, images, etc. The best way to learn this is just to spend some time, get your hands on it, play around with it. And don't be afraid to break anything. Remember, you can always undo something or revert to an old revision. And if you really want to experiment and get crazy, play around with all the different elements and combinations of settings, you can create a separate page, call it Sandbox or Test Lab or something like that. And you can go hog wild without worrying about it affecting your homepage. If you want to continue watching over my shoulder as I build out the rest of my homepage, you are welcome to do that. I'll be recording an optional lesson where I go through the rest of the build out. It should give you a good feel for some of the other elements, their style settings, the global site settings, and a few other nitty-gritty details of Elementor. You can find that lesson in the bonus module where I'll have a few other extra fun resources for you, but I'd much rather you spend your time building out your own website. So let's jump into the next lesson and build out your secondary pages. Welcome back. By now, I hope you've taken some time, a few minutes or a few hours, to play around with Elementor, get familiar with the interface, and build out your homepage, or at least a good start for your homepage. We still have a little bit of work to do. Namely, we need to link up our page to the rest of the site. If we click this button here, it's not going to go anywhere because this is the only page we have so far. So let's build out some secondary pages. And I'm going to show you right now how to cheat and get a big jump start on building out the rest of our site by using this home page and the elements inside the home page as a template for the rest of our pages. If you remember, we used a starter template provided by Elementor to get a jump start on our homepage design, but we had to take quite a bit of time to update the fonts, the colors, rearrange the sections and the elements, delete what we didn't want. We did a good bit of work to tweak this and make this look exactly how we want it to look for our business. Now we can save this as a custom template and get an even further head start on the next page. At the bottom of the sidebar, next to Update, click this little arrow to expand this menu and click Save as Template. And we'll call this Homepage Template, or whatever you want it to be. Save that. And now this will be available for us just like the rest of these templates were when we go to build out our other page. But real quick, before we move on, let me show you how to save a single section as a template. Maybe you don't want to load up an entire page, but there's a section that you finessed, you got it just the way you like it, and you plan on using that component across other pages of your site. For instance, maybe we want to show this lead generator at the bottom of all of our pages. So let's right-click this pink tab and find Save as Template, and we can save this section to our library. So we could call this lead generator and save. All right, now that we have our templates saved, we'll X out of that, click up in the top left-hand corner and exit. We're going to go back to Pages and click Add New. I'm going to title this About Us. Now, when you build a new page, you have a few options available. I didn't really cover this interface in detail earlier, so let's take a look at a few things now. In the sidebar here, under Summary, we can change the visibility from public, anybody can see this page, or you could click here and choose private or password protected if you want to limit access to this page to select users. You can publish your page immediately. When you click publish, it goes live, or you can choose a date and time in the future for it to automatically go. And if you choose a date, you'll see this changes from publish to schedule, so you can have that automatically go up at a designated time. You could also backdate the page if you want to, make it look like you published it earlier than you actually did. And template, not going to get into that right now. Some themes have different templates like full width, left sidebar, right sidebar. You can change that here. One thing I want to change is the URL. By default, it's going to set the permalink, anything after the slash after your website, to the title. So about us becomes about-us. But I just want this to be about, so I can just change this to about. Now going from about us to about, not a huge jump, you're only shaving off 3 characters, but if I made a page for the WordPress website and a weekend workshop, I don't want to make people have to type in the full title of my program in order to get to that web page. I could shorten that to workshop or www. It's just sometimes it can be useful to set this to something a little bit shorter. Now, if you do want to change the URL for the web page, do that earlier than later, because if I was to promote /about-us on Facebook or an email or link that other places, and then I changed it later to just /about, chances are I'm going to break that link, and anybody who's using the old link would just get to one of those 404 pages on my website. So set your URL to what you want it to be before you go and promote that link. A few more settings. We have author. This is usually more useful for posts than it is for pages, especially if you have multiple authors and you want to make sure that you're giving the byline to the correct author for that article or post. You can set the featured image. Again, this is something that's a little bit more useful for posts rather than pages, but it's not a bad idea to set a featured image, because when you share this on social media, it typically grabs the featured image to use as the preview image. Likewise, you can define an excerpt, discussion, comments. That doesn't really come into play on static pages unless you manually add a comment box. I guess that's an option. And finally, we have page attributes where you can define a parent page. So this is helpful if you have multiple services, for instance. You are an HVAC company. You could have a services page with the full menu of what you offer, but then you might have a more detailed page specifically for residential heating. You could set services as your parent page for residential heating, and then you'd see this relationship reflected in the web address, yourwebsite.com/services/residential heating. It's helpful for your customers to see where they're at, to see that, oh, there's more services available in case they just jumped on the detail page. And it's also helpful for search engines to understand the relationship of your website content. All that said and done, now we can go up and click publish, or we could save this draft if we want to publish it for later, but let's click publish for now. So we save the title, and now let's click edit with Elementor. Loads up a blank page for us, but let's click the folder icon and click My Templates, and we can find our homepage template or lead generator. Let's insert the homepage template, click Apply the Settings, and boom, just like that, we have a second homepage. Except we don't want 2 homepages. We want to make this an About Us page. So let's start tweaking this around. We can swap the photo over to the other side. We can call this About Us. I'm going to keep this really simple and just include a little blurb about me and a link to go ahead and request an audit. I will delete that. I'll delete this. We can leave this there for now. Delete, and let's leave that call to action there. But just for kicks and giggles, let's delete that. But oh no, I actually wanted that. We could undo it, but we could add that section back because we saved it as a template, and insert the lead generator, apply, and there we go. We can quickly grab and insert that saved template into any page just like that. Now, obviously, I could spend more time on this page, tweaking a few things, finessing the design. I don't like this white gap here. I could do a few things with that. I could change the alignment of the image to kind of better match the height. I'm going to leave that be, but for now, just going to leave it as is. We're going to click Update and move on to our next page and build out our contact form. We are nearing the finish line. In this lesson, we are going to build one more page, learn a little bit about plugins and why WordPress is just great. So let's jump right in. We're going to go to our dashboard and add a new page. This is going to be our Contact Us page. And jump over to the URL. Just simplify that to Contact, publish it, and edit with Elementor. Let's click Templates. Now we could use our homepage template and pare that down to just what we want again, but let's take a look at what Elementor has made for us in the block section. Click Contact and take a look at these pre-made contact blocks. These are nice with maps and forms and a few other features. Some of these are marked as Pro, so they're only available if you have a Pro license for Elementor, which real quick is totally worth it. But let's grab this one here. This is free to use, and we'll insert that. And it has everything we need, especially if you are a local business with a physical location. You want people to know how to get to your storefront. We have a map, your location, contact us, phone number, email, hours, and social icons. These are easy to update with your own information. It's just a text box. The social icons is a dedicated element. You can click in here and add your link. You can tweak the colors. You can change the icon with something else. Maybe you don't have a Facebook page, but you have an Instagram channel that you want to drive people to. You can type in your link right there. And let's get rid of Google+, because Google+ has been dead for years now. Let's delete that from our social icons, and let's take a look at the map. Click into here, see what sort of settings we have. I don't think your business is located at the London Eye, so you can just type in your address there. You can control the zoom. You can zoom out a little bit to give people a little bit more context, see what main roadways are near your location. You can set the height of the element itself, and a few other style settings are available in the other tabs. Now, this is a great start for a contact page, but I am an online-based business. I don't really need this map, so I'll delete this. I want to replace that with a simple online form where people can send some information, and I will receive an email notification anytime a new lead comes in. Now, if I go to widgets and search for form, there is a built-in form element by Elementor, but it is only available to Pro users. Elementor Pro is totally worth the upgrade, not just for the additional elements, but there's a ton of Pro features that you can unlock. I'll cover some of my favorite Pro features in another lesson in the bonus module, but for now, we're going to continue this tutorial just using the free version and freely available tools. So let's go ahead and save this as a draft. Let's go back to our WordPress dashboard, and you'll see if you are using WPMU dev hosting, you already have access to Forminator Pro, which is a Pro form builder plugin, which is great. I really like that. But let's go to plugins and find some other options. There's a ton of great form builder plugins. You really can't go wrong, but one of my other favorites to use is Fluent Forms. So we can click Add New and search for Fluent Forms. And here we go. Contact form plugin. You want to find the one with the 3 stripes, and look at that, 300,000 plus active installations. Anytime you are adding a plugin to enhance the functionality of your website, you want to make sure that you are downloading something from a trusted developer. When you're looking at the plugin repository here, you can see the ratings, the number of installations. A lot of people are using this and trust this. When it was last updated 3 months ago, that's not bad. It says it's untested with your version of WordPress. That doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't work. WordPress is constantly rolling out updates, minor updates like version 6.1.23, just security patches and the like. It usually doesn't impact the compatibility of a plugin, but I would be concerned if this says this was untested and it was last updated more than 2 years ago. That would be a red flag that maybe it doesn't work anymore. But to further vet the plugin and the developer, you can click this link here and you can go to their site to get more information. Fluent Forms, you'll see, has a pro version that gives you access to more features like conditional logic and integrations with third-party services. But again, this is the free version, so let's go back and just install the free version of the plugin. Once that's installed, we will activate it. And in the sidebar, we'll see we have a new link here for Fluent Forms. We'll click on that. They give us some forms to start, or we could click up here for add a new form, and we can choose from more templates that they have. Marketing, product, education, nonprofit, like a donation form. Some of these are locked to pro users, but we don't need that. Let's use this contact form. Click create a form, and let's see what we get. We get first name, last name, email, subject, your message. That might be everything that you need. I would like to take a look at some of these other fields over here and grab a drop down. I can just drag this over here, and I want to know for my business, what platform is your website built? And I can define the options here. WordPress, Weebly, Squarespace, Wix, and click the plus button, other. And I can click here to make this required. I could set an error message in case they forget to fill that in. The default is fine. Let me go back to input fields. I also need their web address. So there's actually a website URL, which is nice. I could just have a regular text box, but the website URL field will validate the URL, make sure it's an actual website instead of them just typing in dog biscuits, and I can't do anything with that to preview their website. So let's change this here, URL, make that required. That's important for me. I'll delete the subject. I don't care too much about that. I can change your message to what specific issues are you facing with your website that you would like us to take a look at. And they can write an open-ended comment there. Great start. Email address, that's everything I need. Let's save the form and go to settings and integrations. Here, when it's submitted, we can customize the notification that shows up. So when they submit the form, we can have a little message pop up on the same page. We can redirect them to a different page or a custom URL entirely if we want to take them off site. Now, I want to make sure I'm getting an email anytime somebody submits a form. So let me set that up here. New notification, I'll myself up, new inquiry, and email body. I could write a message here. I can use shortcodes that will pull information from the form submission. So first name, last name, email, URL. I want all the data, so I'll just click all data. Go and save that notification, make sure that's enabled. And I think that is about it. Now, if I have the pro version, I could integrate this with payment providers and have it automatically submit leads to a CRM like HubSpot. For keeping this simple, I don't need that right now. I'm just going to click up here to copy this shortcode to my clipboard, go back to my contact page, and then search for shortcode element, drag that over, and in the box here, I will paste my form. And there it is. Let me move that over to the other side. The one thing I just want to double check, this button's a little bit weird. It's pink text on a red button. I'm not sure why it's showing up that way. Let's update this and reload the page just to double check. There we go. That's better. It might have just needed to refresh the page. Also, that should give us access to, if we go to elements, yes, we now have a new element that we can drag in. specifically for Fluent Form. Sometimes when you install a plugin, that will give you more elements in Elementor. So let's click that setting and we can choose which form we want to pull in. And we can use this interface instead of using the shortcode. Let me delete this. This actually gives us a lot more control over the style of our plugin. So we can change the color of the button here. Let's change that to our accent color. We can have a heyday doing all these customizations here. Background color for the form container. We can change the font of the labels. Lots of options available when you use the Fluent Form element. So I'm liking that a lot. One more thing that I'll do before we call this a day on this page is to hide the title, and then we'll update. There we go. We are so close to finishing our website. Now that we have our pages built out, let's get them all linked together and build out our nav menu. See you in the next lesson. We're so close to launching our website. I can see the little wisps of steam, or what is that, liquid nitrogen that kind of clouds off the rocket before launch, and you have all the dry ice falling off the rocket and all that cool stuff. I digress. Let's take a look at our homepage and see what is left to do before we blast this puppy into orbit. All right, we need a menu. That is first and foremost on our list of things to tackle. We need to link up all of our buttons on the site. And our logo is a little out of line. It's kind of like nudged in to the side. We'll take care of that as well. So right here from this page, we can click Customize and go to Menus and create a new menu from here. We can also access menu settings from the dashboard. Under Appearance, we have Themes, Customize, and Menus, and this will get us to the menu section. I prefer this view. It gives you just a little bit more space, a little bit more control, but you can customize your menu from the other view as well. But let's add a new menu. We don't have one at all, so let's just call this Primary Menu. I'm not going to choose a display location yet, but you could click header or footer. Let's create the menu. And then over here, we can add menu items. So we just have our About Us page and our Contact Us page. We'll add those. We can also plug in custom links if you want to send somebody off-site, or if you have categories of blog posts or products that you want to include in your menu, you can do that. But we're just going to use these two for now. You can click to expand the menu item and change the label. It will be the same page, but we can change this to Request an Audit. And this could be About Us. We can click and drag and rearrange the menu items, and we will save the menu. And now let's go back to Customize. If we reload this page under Menus, we see our primary menu here and the menu items. Let's click back to Header and Footer, and here we can set your header and footer. Start here. So that loaded up our Elementor site settings. You can get here from any Elementor page by clicking in the top menu there. But let's go down to header. All right, so in the header, let's go down to menu, and we can select our primary menu here. And it says changes will be reflected in the preview only after the page reloads. So let's click update, and we'll refresh this page. And there is our menu. Under typography, and let's chunk it up, make it nice and bold. Let's bump up this size a little bit. There we go. And change the color to our accent color. And here, breakpoint tablet means that on a tablet view, it's going to change. We can check out the responsive mode right here. It's going to change to a mobile menu. It's going to change that little hamburger icon. But we only have a couple links. Let's just set that to mobile so it won't collapse the menu until you're looking at it on a phone. While we're in mobile view, we can change the logo width. Let's shrink that down a little bit. And I'll talk more about responsive settings a little bit later. Let's finish building this out. Let's go back to desktop and take a look at our header. This is a good start. And let's fix that little indent issue with the logo. We'll switch from boxed to full width. That brings us all the way back. All right, but let's under gap, let's nudge that back in about 35 pixels so it isn't like sitting against the border of your website. Let's close that up and see how that looks. Not too bad. That's looking a little squeezed on mobile, so we can set the gap a little bit further back for mobile devices specifically. There we go. Now let's click here and see what it looks like on our homepage. That's looking pretty good to me. Now, we just need to go back in, edit with Elementor, make sure any links on the homepage that we're referencing other pages on the site are pointing to where they need to go. All right, we'll go through and make sure all of our buttons are pointing to the proper pages. And then we'll do one more pass to make sure everything is looking right across different devices and screen widths. We'll talk about responsive settings in the next lesson. We're almost there. It looks beautiful on desktop. Everything's linked up to where it should go, but how does this look on a tablet or a mobile device? Let's click down here to responsive mode and click on tablet portrait, and let's scroll through and see what we get. Okay, right off the bat, I'm seeing a few things that I'd like to tweak. So let's take a look at what it looks like on mobile. Okay, definitely see some spacing issues here, some alignment issues, some sizing issues. This is a little bit wonky. So what we need to do now, let's start with the mobile view, because this is the way that most of your visitors are going to be looking at your website, and see what we can do to tweak this. All right, so this is actually not that bad. It automatically sized down the text and centered this, but this image is below everything. I want to bring this back up. But if I drag this column, if I rearrange that, that would change the layout for the desktop view too. I can click up here for this section, and under Advanced, I'll go down to Responsive, and here I can reverse the columns on mobile. And that swaps the columns left and right only for this view. If I go back to desktop, it looks the way it's supposed to, but here is a nice way to get that up top above my headline. Now I just need to change the alignment. Horizontal, we'll go to center, and we'll add a little bit of, we'll mess around with the padding here. Let's zero out the top margin and add a little bit to the bottom. All right, we're on our way. All right, there's a combination of different responsive settings through the advanced menu. You can swap the columns like we just did. You can also hide certain elements on desktop, tablet, or mobile portrait views. So maybe I don't want this image to show at all. I could go to advanced and under responsive. So I can click that and hide this element on the specific view. Hiding elements comes in handy in case it's not enough to just swap the columns. You need to rearrange the elements even more. Maybe you have multiple columns, or there's a bunch of different elements that you just can't get them to lay out quite right, even with all of your other responsive options. Sometimes you want to duplicate a section and drag things around and design that specifically for mobile view, and then you could hide that on desktop. So you have a desktop version of the section that's hidden on mobile, and you have a mobile version of the section that's hidden on desktop. Let's untoggle that for now, and let's keep scrolling down. Okay, so we have a little bit of padding here. So is that in the section? Let's click here. I think that's actually in the next section here. Let's click Advanced. Yep, the margin, I can zero that out or take that down from 25 to 10 would be good. And let's go take a look at these elements. Now, these icons are a little large for my liking for a mobile view. I can size that down a bit. And can we also center this? I can. Bring the padding down. And once I dial in one of these sections, remember we can right-click, copy, and then right-click and paste the style. And quickly apply all of those settings to the rest of the elements. We need a little bit of padding under here, so let's click back up there and add some bottom padding. Let's do 15%, and let's also, 5% on right and left. Now, if you see this icon here, this mobile portrait, I can click that and switch back to desktop and see that although I am changing the styles for those elements on mobile, That is only impacting the styles on mobile. I can go back here, click desktop, switch to tablet mode, and I see I need to kind of get this straightened out here. So we'll go section by section, element by element, and make sure that these settings are dialed in for each of the different responsive views. We'll do one more together. So here we have this is stacked on top when they were side by side on the desktop view. We can size this column down to 30, and this column is at 100, so let's set that to 70. That's not taking up the full width. Let's go to style and let's bring the width, the max width up. What's going on here? Oh, maybe there's some zero out the padding and margin. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. We can bring this text size down a bit. So anywhere we see this icon, we can tweak the size and settings for that specific device. Not every setting is responsive. For instance, here we see the weight is set universally across desktop, mobile, and tablet views. If I was to change this to extra bold, it would appear extra bold across all devices. But most things that are related to the sizing and alignment of an element are able to be tweaked to fit that screen size. This process can take a little time, but please take a little time to make sure that your website looks good on mobile devices, tablets, and desktop. You want to make sure that your visitors have a good experience wherever they are calling in from. This is one thing that a lot of sites get wrong, and if you get it right, you are going to set yourself apart from your competition in a very big way. All right, pencils down. Check your time. How did you do? How long did it take you to finish building out your business website? That's right, we're done, or nearly done. Before you go hog wild and promote your shiny new website to the entire world, share it with just a few people and get some initial feedback. See if you missed anything. You've been staring at this thing for the past few hours, few days, few months. I don't know how long you've just been absorbed in this, and your brain is probably processing things a certain way, skipping over typos. Maybe you didn't think to test it on a certain browser, but when you get an outside fresh perspective, you're going to get fresh insights that you would not have been able to see on your own. So share it with some friends, shop it out to some customers or potential clients and see if the messaging resonates with them. See if they're running into any technical issues, if they find any broken links. Maybe somebody uses Safari browser and you built this on Chrome and something just shows up a little bit differently, and you can test that out, smooth out the edges, and then once you make those tweaks, go crazy. Tell the world, celebrate, but continue to iterate, continue to improve. As more people see it and you get more feedback, more data, you can install Google Analytics or other analytics software to see exactly how people are finding your website, where they're going on your website, how long they're staying on your website. You can get a lot of information and you can make decisions based on the information you get. Test out different messaging, test out different images. This is not set in stone. You can keep adding on and making your website better, stronger, faster. As you share your website with human beings, don't forget to share your website with robots. You will want to sign up for a Google Search Console account and let Google's creepy crawlers know that your website exists. They need to index it and start promoting your website and search results. SEO is a whole nother conversation that we're not going to touch in this course, but getting your site connected with Google Search Console is a very good next step. Also, while you're sharing your website with robots and the rest of the world, be sure to share it with me. I would love to take a look at what you just built. Send me an email. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to get your thoughts about this course. I'd love to know how long it took. Did you actually keep track of the time? I might actually do that leaderboard idea. And I'd love to take a look at your website and see what we were able to build together. If you have any questions, if you want some help building out your website a little bit further, using some more advanced features of Elementor and other plugins, or getting your website integrated with other services you use, I'd love to help. We actually have a special offer just for course takers on our website build out and coaching bundle that we offer over at Brero.com. We can have a conversation about your website business goals, identify some more tools that we can incorporate into your marketing strategy, get everything connected, and build it out and take it to the next level. If that's something you're interested in, shoot me an email and I will get you connected with special pricing just for you. But right now, pat yourself on the back because you did it. You have reached the official end of the course and you have built your very own website all by yourself. I hope that I was helpful with it, but give yourself a lot of credit. You just learned how to go from zero to outline to wireframe to hosting to WordPress to Elementor to beautiful web design in just a few days. I'm really proud of you. I hope you're proud of yourself. This was really fun going through this content. And again, if you have any questions, if I can help you take your website or your business marketing strategy to the next level, don't hesitate to reach out.